Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Before we wind up our discussion, let's look at your feedback this evening. 22422 is our SMS line. The hashtag is Newsnight. This is what Kenyans are saying tonight. Being Charlie, you say, finally, politicians are talking about runaway national debt enabled by their parliamentary incompetence and excesses of the executive. Hashtag debt crisis. That's Being Charlie. Gentlemen, Kenyans are not taking it easy on Mwangi. I'll please remind Ishungwa how he voted in 2018 when the debt ceiling was raised to 9 trillion. You can refer him to the Hansard if necessary. All right, let's see. I think he's already spoken to that. Eugene Kosgei, Kenya is a rich country in its own. We have enough resources, workmanship, and skills to be able to fund our economy at large. Countries like Singapore took some lessons from us, and they are way ahead of us. This goes down to leadership. That's from Eugene. Kosgei. Oko Jr. Kimani Ichung'wah saying if the president says we raise the national debt ceiling to Kenya shillings 15, they'll just walk into parliament to ratify? What is happening to this country? That's from Oko Jr. Let's see what else we have before I read your SMSs. Isigna Brian, it's a shame that Kimani and Mulu are playing the powerless card. Yet they are the only people who could give or put our budgets in order. Then they say we need another chance. For what? To be powerless again? Gabri Dini, you say the time the president was borrowing those loans, was the DP part of the Jubilee government? Was Kimani part of the budget committee? Were they aware of the burden the Mwananchi is having? If DP knew the powers were taken from him, he would have followed the footsteps of the late Jaramogi. Gabia Dini 9, sending in that comment this evening. What else are we seeing? Alex Owiti said Duale is hypocritical about his argument about the economy and debt, speaking from both sides of his mouth. Why didn't he advise the president when he served? This is part of lip service. Leaders are saying nice things during campaigns. In the interest of time, we take one or two more. Kelvin, you say there's a limit to everything. Kenya will be an unsustainable country very soon. Other sectors will start collapsing one by one, no matter who rules the country. Let's take one more. Alan Kinawa, part of our problem is inverted budgeting process, where the executive originates the budget, not parliament. Can the two gentlemen prefer better solutions rather than back-passing? And that's going to be a question that I'll ask. What's the way forward? What else do we have here in terms of messages? In 22422, these are some of the questions that you're asking. So one person asking, ask Kimani, you can't promise 35% without amending the law. What does he think about that? And tell the legislators in your studios, the brains they're talking about in the budget committee have let us down. This is from Gordon. And one last question to you, Kimani, but I'll start with you, Mulu. This gentleman, Mung Runks, wants to know, ask Kimani Ichung'wah, the wanton corruption we saw in the first 5 years of Jubilee, could that also be described as state capture? Hold on to that. Dr. Mulu, let me start with you first. Respond to some of those messages as we talk about the way forward.
Thank you, Waiga. I think, Waiga, we must thank the viewers for some of the observations. They're actually right. And I think we have agreed, both of us, that we can't say the blame for public debt is fully on the executive side. Parliament has also their own portion of the blame. But what we are saying, I think we need to look at the architecture of our governance structure. And I think it's important Kenyans look at it in totality. Because you know what happens, Waiga, is for you to get to Parliament, majority of us are through political parties. And political parties, if you look at the Political Party Act, it has also very clear provisions on how a member should behave. And that's why you see some of the members have actually suffered as a result of not really adhering to the party position. So unless we also question the governance structure of our country, then I think it would be very unfair to say that members of parliament, and it's even now worse, Waiga, where we are approaching the elections. Every member of parliament now is looking at getting the party ticket to contest for the next election. And imagine now, if you are being removed from a committee just because you are not loyal to the party, imagine what would happen now if you went against the party position and you want a ticket to go. So we must understand these things, Waiga. That's why you see, when you are in the government through a party, when the position of the party which is ruling is this, to a large extent, Waiga, you'll have very minimal chance as a member of parliament. Unless you want to cease being a politician, you'll have a minimal chance to go against that position. And that's why I'm telling you, I was sympathizing with my good friend, Honorable Ichung'wah. Because what will happen is, when he brings those proposals of this, the government is going to whip everybody who is on their side to come and... they will not even be debated, I can tell you for sure. By the time he's trying to move them, he shouted, he can't even talk. Wake Aswali, we clear him and we go. That's what happens. So while I appreciate that Kenyans would say we've not reached their expectation, but it's also time we started thinking about how does one become a member of parliament, and to what extent does that member of parliament have free room to do things based on your own technical knowledge or experience. That's why Kimani was saying, me and Mheshimiwa Mbandi, this approach we understand very well. But at times, despite that theoretical appreciation of the budget, at times you realize that's why when I go to Parliament, I will always make sure that the answer captures what I want to say, which might not be in line with what the party's position is, which might not be in line with what the government wants, because that then, to some extent, in future, somebody can do research and say, when Mheshimiwa Makali Mulu was MP for Kitui Central, matters budget, what was he saying? And see who was really just voting for the sake of voting, and who was voting based on information which is good for the country. But I'm telling you, so long as we'll have a majority party and a minority party in Parliament, and Parliament, as we said, the executive capture continues to be there, then we have to live with this.
Do you believe that the recommendations that you have now put in this report for the financial year 2022-2023, do you believe they'll be implemented?
How many have been implemented in the past? You know, I want to give you a very good example. And you can bear me with
so for 9 years...
As a parliament...
Dr. Mulu, and this, I'll keep asking this question.
I want to tell you...
So for 9 years, you've sat and written reports and recommendations that have not gone anywhere.
I'm telling you, if you look at the law, the Public Finance Management Act, it says when you discuss the budget policy statement, Parliament would give recommendations which would guide the estimates. And where Treasury doesn't adhere to those recommendations,
yes,
they need to explain why they are not agreeing. I want you to look at the report since we joined Parliament in 2013. You realize, for example, a very good example, always we keep on saying any project, government project is being implemented and is using money which is borrowed, and it will cost the Kenyans more than $1 billion. It should be approved by Parliament, he can tell you. Look at all the reports. It has never been implemented. Every time the budget comes, when you want to oppose that, as we said, the party whips their members to vote.
Which is why I'll keep asking this question. And you're still satisfied with your performance in the budget committee?
We didn't say it's 100%, but we are saying at times...
What would you give it? 50%?
Democracy demands that when you go voting, the majority have their way, the minority have just their voice, which can be heard. That's democracy. Oh. And that's the price of democracy.
Kimani, come in.
Wahiga, maybe just to answer first what you're asking Makali. I told you the biggest problem that bedevils our country and the country's economy is state capture.
When did state capture begin?
Yes.
Now that you've said this before, when did state capture, if we had to buy your argument, when did it begin?
Right after Mwai Kibaki left power. That is why Wahiga,
so
Makali Mulu will tell you.
When you had the president...
from the budget and
so you're telling us tonight that when you had the president and the deputy moving around the country, speaking in one voice, you're saying there was state capture then?
There was state capture. Immediately, the Jubilee government took over. But very disguised state capture. Because as Makali Mulu tells you, you make a recommendation in Parliament, don't borrow over $1 billion shillings and put it in a project without parliamentary approval. I'll give you the case example of the Nairobi Expressway that never came to Parliament for approval in terms of being told it's a PPP project. And the only thing that came to the Budget and Appropriations Committee was a request for 7 billion shillings for relocation of services. That project was built to cost 63 billion shillings. I think the newspapers last week, Business Daily, I think another newspaper reported that cost had now escalated to 89 billion shillings. Is that with parliamentary approval? But members of parliament will bear the flak for it when we start paying for that road, because very soon we'll start paying for it. Who are the net beneficiaries of that project, Wahiga Mwaura? Go back to the earthquake speech by the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi when he told you that they are people who are the greatest burden that this country has had to bear. They are the real thieves, and through state capture, they have captured our state. They don't pay taxes. PPP projects are disguised as PPP projects, but the net beneficiaries are known. This state capture, the person who sent a message asked whether the corruption in the first term was state capture. I will tell you, yes. Any incident that you find of corruption is principally fueled by state capture. I gave you the classic example, at least one that I interacted with, of the SGR project and how it was procured, how it was awarded. You will remember in Mombasa, I don't know if you were there, I think it was Hussein Mohammed who was there in Mombasa, and in an interview the president promised in 2 weeks he would make available the SGR agreement. Today, I think you are still waiting, like all other Kenyans are waiting. We were told 21 months ago that in 21 days we would know who are the people who have stolen from us in the KEMSA COVID billionaire scandal. We see them roaming the streets and supporting presidential candidates in this country. Free. None of them has been charged. In that first term of the Jubilee government, you remember there was a 5 billion scandal at the health ministry.
There are many scandals that Kenyans are still waiting for.
There are very many. I could count them one by one, but I was just mentioning SGR. So that one of this one.
Which makes me wonder then, as a Jubilee
I will even come to Aurora and Kimwarel. Let me mention Aurora and Kimwarel, maybe just to please some people who love to mention Aurora and Kimwarel. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, a principal secretary reported to a committee in Parliament that they were waiting for the refund of 7 billion shillings that had been paid as a bank guarantee, money that is supposed to come back to the government of Kenya. Look at the insurance companies involved. State capture.
So Kimani Ichung'wah, are you telling us, again, I'm buying this off everything that you're telling us, that you've been part of a party that formed government, that immediately began state capture, for the last 9 years. Your point, you are throwing stones in your house.
I have right on this seat, on this desk, in front of that camera, apologize to Kenyans.
That was going to be my next question.
I have said it, I don't know if it was your show or another show. I said I apologize to Kenyans that indeed I regret that there are certain things that I supported, believing that we had a government or an administration that was acting in good faith in the best interest of the public. But I came to realize that state capture had since taken over government, that people are not acting in the best interest of the country.
Okay.
And when we speak about it, I told you, when we speak about it, when we challenge them, they threaten us with death. I have said it here before. We have been threatened. We are threatened with all manner of threats.
The authorities.
I have reported them.
You have reported.
But how do you report? How do you report the same people who are threatening you? But I have reported, just on record.
Okay.
But I was saying, other than that, yes, which is to be reported to the authorities, he has told you what happens in Parliament and what has happened to members of Parliament. Those of us who have stood our ground and said, this is the right thing, it is a question of right and wrong, I will go with what is right.
Okay.
You are shipped out.
You said that.
Today,
you have said that already.
I am not looking
Unless
for
you're saying something new, I need to let him say his final word. Finish up.
You know, Waiga, I think my friend Kimani says executive capture started in 2013. I don't think that is really the right statement. The truth of the matter is, any government in power, their assignment number one is to make sure that they disempower Parliament. That's why you see every party wants to get as many members of Parliament as possible in the House, so that when they bring their bills, when they bring their proposals, they are the majority to pass their ideas, whether the minority you like it or when you don't like it.
Okay.
So all over the world, actually the strategy, and this is a strategy, the strategy is for the executive to try as much as possible to be able to control Parliament. It is only the degree of control which differs from one country to the other. Now, what has happened in this country? This has been happening all over the time. But I can say the 12th Parliament, the degree of executive capture, when you compare, both of us were in 11th Parliament, and he can tell you, when you compare 12th Parliament, 11th Parliament and 12th, the degree of executive capture for the 12th has been higher than the 11th Parliament.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the truth. But for me, in concluding, I've served under 3 chairs in this committee. under him, under Honorable Mutaba Musimi, and Honorable Kanini Kega, who is currently the chair. And I can tell you for sure, these are gentlemen, if they had a free hand, they would have done an excellent job. But as I said, you know where they are appointed. So to some extent, they are all good, but depending on how
you know where he was appointed.
yeah, he knows. So at the end of the day, he's serving in the interest of the executive because he's an appointee of the executive. He's also a member of the ruling party. Currently he is, but whoever is a chair is a member of the ruling party. And that's how you see some of us who are trying to get this position based on merit and experience could not get them. Could not get them. So we must accept some of these realities because we are Kenyans. So that even as we push blame to members of parliament, he agrees with me. Well, any chair who will come there, he has to serve that committee and know that I'm serving this committee as a member of Jubilee, and the Jubilee manifesto and programs must be implemented. If you don't do that, my friend, you will be short-lived in that committee.
Well, we're going to have to leave it here. Would you ever serve in a budget committee again?
Sorry?
Next parliament, if you get in?
Would I ever serve again?
Would you serve? Would you lead a budget committee?
I truly could not resign because I felt I had an obligation that I owed to the people of Kikuyu and the people of Kenya.
So moving forward in the next
parliament, to do the right thing.
Yes.
If I had an opportunity to serve in that committee again to continue doing the right thing and saying things as they should be, I would serve.
Okay.
Doesn't mean, but maybe in conclusion, Wahiga, let me just say again, what we are telling Kenyans is that, one, we have to be careful as to the caliber of leaders that we elect in the coming elections. Elect leaders who are not so gullible, leaders who are not cowards, elect leaders who will be bold to say things as they are and take position based on the information that you have at hand.
Okay.
Not to be swayed by your party leaders, not to be swayed by what happens in parliament. People don't even, as Mheshimiwa says, they don't even listen to reason. They will look at the amendments and look at who is proposing.
Yes.
Where does it belong? Ua.
That's how things happen.
Yeah, in conclusion, tutaendelea kubweka mpaka mambo yatafanyike na yatendeke.
Na ukisema hivyo, unaenda Sagana?
I have never been invited other than for Sagana one, and I think those who extend the invitations know if there were one Sagana that was invited to, we were kept outside, we were not even let anywhere near a microphone. If I had the opportunity to attend Sagana, I would be very glad to go and tell His Excellency the President to focus more on the issues that we wrote to him in an open letter that we wrote to him on the 28th of January last year, the issues that affect our people in the Mount Kenya region. Otherwise, if the president is calling us to direct us as to who to elect, I must tell him, sorry, Mr. President,
so
Maliza Wende.
I'm guessing that's a no from you, and we're going to leave it.
I have not been invited. I can't get crashed there. They have GSU.
That just away.
Chased away.
They have GSU.
All right.
to make sure I don't come anywhere near.
We are going to have to wrap this up. Thank you so much. We've had Kimani Ichung'wah, first time in a long time here in our studios, MP from Kikuyu, former chair of the Budget Committee, together Dr. Makali Mulu, MP Kitui Central, current member of that committee. You believe what they've spoken this evening? We leave you as the audience, be the jury. We're going to have to leave it there. On behalf of the whole team that's made this broadcast possible, thank you for tuning in and thank you for having watched us since we began this broadcast. My sign language interpreter this evening has been Wilson Mushora, and on behalf of everyone, thank you once again. Thank you to my guests. Thank you to all who've been watching us both in Kenya, East Africa, and around the world. Time now to say goodbye, but we'll see you soon. My name is Wahiga Mwaura. Goodbye for now.